Hi class! Today we are going to be learning about the phases of the moon. Have you ever wondered what causes the moon to change shape? The first step in understanding why the moon seems to change shape is knowing where it gets its light. The moon does not make any light of its own. The moon is illuminated by a reflection of light from the sun. Now we know that the moon gets its light from the sun, but that still doesn't explain why it changes shape. The shape of the moon has to do with its position in the sky. The moon circles around the earth once about every 28 days. This is called its orbit. As the moon travels in its orbit around the earth is also traveling in its orbit around the sun. The shape of the moon depends on its position between the earth and the sun. Here are some examples of the many different shapes of the moon. We call these the moon's phases. There are 8 major phases of the moon. In this picture, the white part of the moon is the portion that is illuminated by the sun. This is what we see in the night sky. Now we will discuss each phase of the moon in a little more detail. We'll start with the new moon. We can hardly see it at all. This is because the moon is directly between the earth and the sun. So the side of the moon facing us is receiving no light at all. Next, as the moon begins moving away from the sun, it begins to receive more light. We call this process of the sun gaining light waxing. The moon is less than half full, and we call this phase the crescent phase. So this is the waxing crescent phase. The moon is now 1/4 of its journey around the earth. It appears as half lit. This phase is called the first quarter. The moon is still gaining light and is more than half full. The term we use for a moon that is more than half full is gibbous. This is the waxing gibbous. Do you know what this phase is called? Go ahead, take a guess. This phase is called the full moon. The moon is now halfway through its journey. It is in its farthest position from the sun and appears fully lit. At this point, the moon begins returning closer to the sun. Contrary to what you may think, it will now begin losing light. When the moon loses light, we call this waning. Because it is more than half full, and it is losing light, we call this stage the waning gibbous. The moon is now 3/4 of the way through its journey. This is the third quarter phase. This is also sometimes referred to as the last quarter. The moon in this phase appears to be half lit. As the moon approaches the last phase in its journey, it is losing light and is less than half full. Can you guess the name of this phase? It's the waning crescent. We have now returned to the first phase of the moon, the new moon. Let's take a look at all 8 phases of the moon again. Feel free to review this presentation as many times as you need to feel comfortable with the content. We will have a short quiz in class tomorrow to review the 8 phases of the moon. For 5 extra credit points, go outside and and take a look at tonight's moon. Sketch a picture of it and label it with the correct moon phase. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson and learned a lot. Now please enjoy this fun song about moon phases that will also help you review for the quiz. See you tomorrow.
Goes new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon. Those are the phases. Oh.